Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another day of life, and we thank you for the opportunity to get together with friends and to open your word and to ask your spirit to be present as you guide our discussion. I'm thankful that Mark and many others are wrestling with your word as well. May we all grow closer to you and have clear revelations of you, that we may share that your love and your character with others. Just bless us, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen. So I was wondering if anybody had any questions or if anybody started pulling any threads and saw some threads that they wanted to share.
Maybe you could talk about verse 10. He's made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. And the kind of kingdom dynamics there.
So there's the interesting phrase. This phrase isn't the only place in Revelation, but um, he made it to us unto our God kings and priests. It's also in Revelation chapter 1. Um,
Yes.
but you'll notice that he sings he sings a new song. He's worthy to take the book and to open the seals, for he was slain and has redeemed us from every tribe, tongue, and nation, and has made us kings and priests unto God, and we shall reign on the earth. So this song has seven parts to it. That's the first thing that you'll notice. In each of these, you're going to see the sevens keep repeating. So the first part, the first song has seven parts, and then um, of course the second song is also going to have the seven blessings, power, wisdom, right in verse 12. And then, of course, this third song is going to also have seven parts to it. So there's each of the song has seven parts to the song. Um, but yeah, that he makes us kings and priests to our God, which is interesting. So when Christ becomes king, then then we become the priests. So right now, Christ is our high priest, and he's mediating on our behalf. But when he becomes king, then we become priests. So also the idea that we're exalted when he is exalted is connected. But you see the three parts of the kingdom. He makes our we see God, we see kings, and we see the priests. That's the three parts of the synagogue. The deity is God, obviously. The king is to the right hand of the congregation, and the priest is the right hand of the throne.
In what aspect shall we reign on the earth?
Oh, well, dominion has returned to the sons of Adam, so we actually have dominion of this earth. This is part of this dominion actually begins actually before his second coming. This is why Mrs. White talks about again that signs and wonders will follow God's believers, that you'll speak and nature will respond. Just like the apostles, they were healing the sick and raising the dead and cleansing lepers. Miracles were being performed. Well, that's a priestly and a kingly function. And so when latter rain is poured out, when he's exalted as God, as king, then we start to receive the power to have victory over the forces of darkness, because the second coronation is all about victory and all about exercising his kingly power. So right now, Christ has been coronated as king the first time, but you'll notice after the first coronation, there's not a public demonstration of his power. It's almost like he's become king, but it's a secret nobody knows. At the second coronation, just at same with David and with Solomon, the second coronation is connected. The king starts exercising his kingly power, and that's when we'll start seeing the dead raised and lepers healed and blind men and the lame walking. And
That's an interesting thought. I guess I never really thought of that dominion when he's crowned king.
Yeah. Well, you either have dominion over the beast within, or it has dominion over you.
Mm. Mm.
So this is the lost dominion he's seeking to restore.
And yet at the same time, there are going to be the false people doing all those signs and wonders too, right?
Yes.
the idea with the second coronation is that just like David and Solomon at their second coronation, they begin to exercise kingly authority. And so you see there's going to be literal demonstrations of his kingly power. And
Mm,
the other domains, the second and third domain, need this physical evidence to reason from, to see and to accept that he's the creator. Because, of course, as you know, at the same time, Satan's going to have his lying wonders are going to be prevalent. And of course, usually you see the lying wonders come first because it's not a deception if it doesn't happen first. But
mm,
so that the idea of reigning on the earth, that's what happens. That's what Satan doesn't want us to understand is the kingly authority that we have.
mm.
So when we speak, nature will respond. That's the same thing that happened with the disciples after Pentecost. They spoke and nature responded.
Wow. Mm,
So looking at prior notes, you had mentioned that this is the first of the 7 new songs in Revelation. And this set deals with the numbering of the people, or it's the numbered group, I should say. And that kind of makes sense because you can't rule if there's no group of people, if there's no number,
Well,
right?
actually, we're in verse 10, right? We're in verse 10,
Well,
Jeff?
verse 8, 11, 10, 13.
Yeah. So 8 through 10 is the first song for the first group.
Yeah.
And then you have 11 and 12. 11 through 12 is the second song for the second group. And then 13 and then 14 are the third song for the third group. So it goes out in the 3 stages, the 3 parts of the kingdom. It starts with the house of God, then it goes out, and then it goes out to the final stage. So there's always 3 stages to the kingdom. So that's why the first group in verse 8 through 10, you'll notice that they're singing the new song and they're saying he's worthy to take the book and open the seals. So that deals with the 7 seals. This is the first group. The second group, 11 through 12, you see there are thousands, 10,000 times 10,000s and thousands of thousands. Well, 10,000 times 10,000 is 100,000. And then the thousands of thousands is the 44,000. The second group deals with the 144,000. And then the third group and for 13 or 14 is every creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth and as such as in the sea. So the third group deals with the numberless multitude. So that's the 3 groups. The first group is the priestly group, or they become kings and priests unto God. They're the messengers of the covenant. And then the second group is the 144,000, and then the third group is the multitude. Does that make sense?
3 parts of the kingdom. Yeah.
I kind of thought
Go
that
ahead.
144,000 were the priests and kings. I mean, weren't they kind of the special ones?
No, they're the numbered group. Remember in the fifth seal, he talks about those who are going to be numbered and then the multitude that would come after. So the messenger goes out, and then there's a numbered group.
Mm,
If you remember, if you notice in Revelation 7, with the 144,000 are mentioned, you're dealing with the sixth seal. The sixth seal always goes out. The sixth part of the sevens always goes out to the next group.
mm,
The first 4 deal with the eternal gospel, and then the maturing of that message within the group, and then the fifth is a going out of the midst each time. So when you deal with the sixth part, the sixth seal or the sixth trumpet, or the sixth plague, you're dealing. Of course, the plagues are the last group, but when you deal with the sixth part, then the sixth part is always an overview of the next group that comes to view. So that's why you're in the sixth seal when you see the 144,000, and then in Revelation 14 you see them again, and they're the ones giving the message to the people in the outer court, because they become the messengers.
mm.
because the
Okay.
first messenger, what happened to the first messenger?
Oh, they get killed.
They were beheaded. Yeah, that's John, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
it's 144,000 who carries the message to the last group.
Okay.
It's
Yep.
not the John messenger.
Mm. Okay.
Yes, but many of the 12 were John's disciples, so, but they were more than that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't change the kingdom dynamics that's being explained.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
follow what you're saying.
Because it's John who's beheaded. I mean, even though you could say, well, Paul was beheaded and Peter was beheaded. Well, yeah, that's true. But the point is that Peter and those guys are part of the number group, and they
Yeah,
don't actually get it until after John is long gone. So there's no more John or John the Baptist. When John is beheaded, there's Jesus, and then there's a numbered group.
yes,
And it's Jesus and the numbered group who take the message then to the world. That's what the apostles are sent. So that's the same kingdom dynamic that you see in the Gospels in the book of Acts. You see being displayed here in the book of Revelation.
Mhm. Mm.
So that's why the number group, and then there's the multitude that cannot be numbered. That's describing the second group, and then you're describing the third group.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's clear.
and like as I brought up this summer at the meetings, I think it's very significant that it's when the body is separated from the head with John, then the true believers, they just follow Jesus.
Well, and there's a whole study that needs to be done in terms of when something happens to John, then Jesus knows that's a sign for something next to happen.
Yes,
So,
yeah,
when John is put in prison, then Jesus does something. And when
yes,
John is beheaded, then Jesus does something.
yes.
Jesus recognizes the what happens to John as a sign or the signal that it's time for the next part of the process to take place. And Revelation deals has the same language. So yes, so that's the kingdom dynamic is everywhere here, and of course that's why the threes are everywhere, the threes and the sevens. I like the phrase it says, "He has made us unto our God kings and priests,"
Yeah,
because it gives the idea of creation or restoration, right?
yes,
That you've been actually made anew or remade, so that now you can actually function in a position of responsibility.
that's his work.
That's right.
That's why it's
Our
connected with
work,
the Sabbath. We don't do work on the Sabbath because that's God's work of sanctification, of
that's
restoration.
right. So our responsibility is to submit or to surrender,
Mm,
to enter his rest, and then he does the work of creation. That's right. He cannot restore us if we are not willing. If we don't surrender our will, then he can't do the work in us he desires to do. But there's no question who's doing the making here, and there's no question about the image or the character that is reflected, who it reflects. So, I mean, we could actually, there's lots of places you can go to see. I remember when we were in Daniel and they described the kingdom, even Darius and Nebuchadnezzar, when they describe the kingdom, they always describe it in the process going out in terms of the three stages. You can remember that, right? So when they write their letters,
Mhm.
um, when they make their statements, it always goes out in terms of three stages. Because the three
Peoples, nations,
parts,
and
the three
languages.
stages to the kingdom was just common, is just common knowledge then. And they understood kingdom dynamics very well. So yeah, you can see it in Daniel 4, verse 1, for example. It's always the people are always first because they're the covenant people, and then the nations, they're the ones who are kind of half and half. They're familiar with the covenant people, but they have actually come mixed with other ideas. And then of course the languages are the people who they're the outsiders, the people that are totally different than you, speak a totally different language. So that's repeated throughout Daniel many times. Of course, Daniel is all about kingdom language, kingdom dynamics. By the way, this is the context of the book of Acts, as I've told you before. The book of Acts is in the same scenario. They asked Jesus, are when are you going to come into your kingdom? And then Jesus says, it's not for you to know the time and seasons that's under the Father, but you're to go out, right? And he gives the three stages to Jerusalem, Judea, and then to Samaria, and then to the uttermost parts of the world. That's the book of Acts. That's the number group going and how the message is going to go out. And the book of Acts follows that pattern, follows that process.
Yeah.
That's the same thing the book of Revelation is doing. So Revelation 5 is actually describing the whole process, the whole book, and then the rest of the book is the unfolding of that process or description of the unfolding of the process. Which is really neat because that means God's telling us, He's telling us what He's telling us, and then He's telling us how He's telling us, and then He tells us what He did tell us. Because the repetition, because we're slow to get it, so He repeats it over and over. Of course, we already know that the fractal idea that it's the eternal gospel and it's going to repeat over and over. In principle, it's going to repeat over and over. You see the same thing that in Ezekiel, by the way, which is profound because of course Ezekiel is the book about the judgment of the living, and you see the same process in chapters 8 through 12 of the three stages of God exiting the sanctuary or coming out of the sanctuary. You see the three stages. He goes to the gate of the temple, then he goes to the gate of the city, and then he goes to the Mount of Olives on the east side of the city. And that's the same, by the way, that's the same process that Jesus followed when he left the temple in Matthew 24. He went to
Yeah.
the gate of the temple, then he went to the gate of the city, then he went to the Mount of Olives. In Matthew 24 is him, the disciples asking, when's the sign of your coming, the end of the age? And Jesus is saying, it just happened and you didn't catch it, is really what he's telling them. It just happened. Um, and so he follows the same process when he leaves the temple in Matthew 24 and in the Gospels, the same process that he left when he left the temple in Ezekiel's day. It's the repetition of the pattern. So there's the judgment, the process happens in three stages. Does that make sense? By the way, that's where we get the three angels' messages from. And each of the three angels' messages, there's three messages, three parts of the three angels' message because each message is complete in itself.